Welcome back to The Watch. Okay, House of Dragon episode 9. There is a lot to talk about with this one. It is a solo review for me today because my lovely wife, the lady, is a bit too busy and she hasn't even been able to watch the episode yet. Okay, so episode 9. Lots of thoughts. I really enjoyed it. I found this to be one of the more intense and kind of engaging episodes, yet at the same time, I think it's the one that has the most flaws out of any other episode, with a big issue with it. Doesn't ruin it for me at all. Does make me concerned for the future. If you've known anything about my House of Dragon reviews going into this, it was with, alright, let's see if they won't go Game of Thrones last seasons, the long night jumping the shark kind of stuff. And unfortunately, there's something in this episode which almost embraced that later Game of Thrones seasons mentality. I hope it's just a blip, and I want to see this get back on track and not fall down that. And what it is, it's relying on spectacle over substance. They made a big choice in this episode to just go for something that was a big spectacle, and it was utterly stupid, ridiculous. Like, what are they thinking? I'll dive into the specifics of that moment. Like I said, didn't ruin it for me. There was a lot to enjoy about this episode, but if I'm trying to put aside my subjective enjoyment, like I said, I found it really engaging and intense as a result. If I put aside the enjoyment side of that and just try and judge it objectively, this probably is the most objectively flawed episode in the show so far. I'll be interested to hear what other people's thoughts are, your thoughts are. I had a great conversation with Gary, Mauler, and Jane Theory over on Nerdrotic about this episode because it has really interesting issues in it. Interesting thing about the episode, though, even if it, say, does go completely off the rails and they just fall into the same trap that they did with Game of Thrones, I still love this show. Episodes 1 to 8, the whole story with Viserys, I could take that as its self-contained show right there, just to see his entire journey and arc, and it's so satisfying to me. I'll always kind of treasure that lovely story, the uplifting kind of thing that you get out of those moments in episode 8, that I'll take that with me. I'll go back and I'll watch them and I'll enjoy them, even if things go off the rails. Look, they've shown enough competence that I still have faith that they won't. This just seemed like, I don't know, someone else had a bit of control over this episode. Maybe they had a different writer for it or anything, because there was some... I'll get to the specifics. Other than those issues, there were great performances by Aemond and Otto, Alicent, and overall what the episode was achieving, they were executing quite well. I would give this one like a 6 out of 10 if I was to judge it all on, and that is probably my lowest score that I've given an episode in this series. If it didn't have that one moment that I feel really, was quite incredibly dumb, and I hope they address it. This should have fallout. What happens in this episode, specifically the end of it. I know everything should have fallout and follow on, but something so significant would be remembered by the people of the city for ages, and I really hope they don't just gloss it over and forget about it. And if you were to take that moment out, and there's so many other ways, that's frustrating. They could have done that so many other ways to get what they wanted and not have something so dumb as a result. I'll talk about the specifics in the spoiler section. And the episode would easily be like a 7, if not maybe you could push to an 8. But there are some interesting things to talk about, because another conversation we'll have is like, was there some kind of woke philosophy being shared about the role of men and women and stuff? Maybe, maybe not. Again, specifics in the spoiler section, which we'll go into right now. That's your warning. Diving into spoilers for House of Dragon episode 9. So one of my first observations in this episode was how well done the opening was, where you see almost like a castle that looks dead because no one is there. And of course, this is just great visual cinematic storytelling where it's conveying something just through the visuals, and you don't need characters, speaking about it, spelling it out, that, yeah, the king has just died, and it kind of just sits on these shots of stillness with no one there really effectively. So Alicent's reaction to being told that Viserys is dead, like, they do some interesting choices with Alicent that I think begins here and throughout this episode, where it's clear that they're trying to make her not as much as a tyrant as the book that this is based on, where a lot of what happens in this episode is actually crafted to try and make her like getting caught up in just the turmoil of what has happened, and other people are trying to push to do some more ruthless evil things, and we see her kind of concession, her making exceptions morally bit by bit, seeing her fall a bit worse, and I think that's very well done if they follow through with it. We've been seeing her make these moral concessions one thing at a time, and she gets about as far here, but like not addressing what looks to be could be a murder. They do a number of interesting things. Some I might not necessarily agree with or don't feel was executed the best way, but they are definitely showing her slowly be willing to do more and more extreme things for this fight that's going to be breaking out between her house and Rhaenyra's house. Her house is the green, so Alicent's is the green, and Rhaenyra's are the blacks. And so what I'm saying that they did well here is that they're showing Alicent reflect true remorse over the king's death, and multiple times, okay, which shows she really did love him. And so I'm glad that they show that, and in this very next scene, this is where she reveals that she believes, right? Viserys told her that Aegon, their son, was to be king. That is the interpretation that they're going with, and looking closely on how that played out in the last episode, I could see that she could legitimately have that impression by what Viserys said. It was two people having two separate conversations. Now, what I kind of like about this, okay, I haven't read the book, but Gary's read the book and has told me things about it, that in the book, she was fully ready to just, no, their king's going to be on the throne, and that's what they wanted, to protect their house, protect their children, and a number of other things. Whereas in the show, she's very much leaning on that, Viserys said that Aegon is to be king, and in her following or trying to fulfill the king's wishes is actually very in line with her character, and that's what I appreciate, because look at Alicent. She has always done her duty, and she has always strived to fulfill the duty of the king. And if the king said to her, or if she still believed he genuinely wanted Rhaenyra to be king, I don't think she would have, and the show is portraying this, she would have tried to countermand his wishes at all, or put her own son on the throne. This is actually coming from a true and accurate kind of representation of a character fulfilling the king's wishes. It's Otto that latches onto that and then goes really extreme with it. Also do remember, of course, there are other motivations at play in regards to that. Alicent does believe that her children, their lives would be at risk if Rhaenyra takes the throne, because they have such a strong claim to the throne. And for Rhaenyra to secure her claim, as Otto has been feeding into Alicent's mind for years, is that Rhaenyra will need to kill Alicent's children to secure her claim. So if she actually honestly believes that, the other side to this is her making this move, which feels justified by the words of Viserys in her mind, is also to protect her family, her children. Great shot of the Red Keep, where you see kind of the zoom out and, candles in the windows of the king's room. It's just, the visuals still impress in this show. Okay, big important scene, and also the namesake of this episode, the Green Council, where she calls all the council people into the room, the very before the break of dawn, telling them what's happened, and really interesting stuff plays out. Otto instantly starts to talk with the Lannister chap about the plan that they need to set forward. They're like, all right, we're ready for this. And Alicent's almost blindsided. She's like, you've been planning secretly to install my son without me? That wasn't in the books. She was fully on board, okay, and I see what they're doing. They're trying to make Alicent a bit more sympathetic, not as tyrannical. This assertion that she's a part of isn't completely her fault. Otto is pushing it. And I kind of like that they are trying to make Alicent a more sympathetic character in this iteration. I think that they are doing that successfully, so there could be a greater kind of conversation about who would you side with, Alicent or Rhaenyra. I've already said that I was leaning towards Team Black. This episode solidifies that. I'm Team Black all the way. And especially, like, Aegon, he's such an awful person. Very well-written character for what they're wanting him to be. But also, they purposely make him very unlikable. He'll be a horrible, awful king. Yeah, I'm Team Black now. So this guy's objection, this is where some of the scene starts to go a little off the rails. Look, not that he's objecting. His objection is great and is showing that he's not as dottery and unaware as he was, but is very firm about, King Viserys' wishes and that he would never disinherit Rhaenyra's claim. And the setup, alright, I know what they're doing here. You see Sir Cole stand right beside him, like, alright, you're gonna push this. And the setup was that I felt Sir Cole was just gonna draw his sword, cut the guy's head off, like we saw in the similar way Daemon do in the last episode. He doesn't necessarily do that. And, there are ways that they could have sold it, because what he ends up doing is just grabbing the guy, pushing him down. They tell him to sit down, and so Cole pushes him down, and in that push, he gets pushed down with such force that his head cracks on the ground, and those weird ball things, which seem to be, they've never explained them, and I don't necessarily think that they should, but it seems to be like, I don't know, whoever's holding it or whoever puts their ball in the thing gets the floor, in essence, like gets to the attention to speak in this council. I think so, but anyway, his head cracks down on one of those things, right on his temple, killing him instantly. That felt pretty contrived, and he just happened to die. Did Sir Cole do it on purpose? Did he aim for it? It's unknown. And they're purposely trying to make it ambiguous, so it didn't seem like flat-out murder, and the reason why I think they're doing that is so that Alicent doesn't react and say, Sir Cole, you're banished, how dare you murder this, man, and he was an innocent man and looks like a good enough man. I don't know much of the details, but he seems like a good man, murdering him in cold blood. So yeah, that's why I think they're trying to make it look like an accident, and it's like, oh crap, that didn't play out very well at all, which seems a bit silly for me. They could have easily have sold it that just Sir Cole just executes him straight away for the grounds of treason, and this guy is saying strong words, and if he says, no, you are betraying the king, and I will do everything in my power to see you fail, you will burn, and your children, if they do this, they will die, and see this, that's treasonous language, and you could have Otto just there looking at him. That is treason, sir. I forget his name. And then perhaps what if he doubles down? Then treason it be, I will not stand. And then Cole just, cuts his head off because he admits to treason there. Alicent Wood is like, what are you doing? And he says, he committed treason, my lady, and stuff. He sought to your destruction. They could have done it such better instead of this kind of arbitrary, silly, I force you to sit down and you happen to crack your head and you die so conveniently. It's just like, the writers, they're better than this. They have more talent than this to have such a kind of silly result. Yeah, look at him. He grabs him and is like, sit, and then he gets cracked. And so it really does, actually, Sir Cole has his hand on the back of the head. Looks like he's aiming for an actual death blow, but then Cole could try and deny and say, no, I was trying to force him down, and he was such a weak man that he toppled over forward, and I was trying to push him back. So, plausible deniability, is that what they're going for? Now, the leader of the King's Guard, he draws his sword and says, surrender your cloak and sword. And this is where you see the beginning of multiple kind of moral concessions and slides by Alicent, where she doesn't tell Cole to, surrender and everything. And I think they're trying to do that through it was an accident story, essentially. I mean, Sir Cole here, he draws his sword on him, and he is basically like, no, I was serving the queen. That's what's being implied. Yeah, see, this is, I will not suffer insults to her grace the queen. So Cole is just saying, I'm serving the queen here, and then they're ordered to put both their swords down. They want to remove the body, but then Otto orders them, the door will remain shut until we finish our business, because, they're basically going to be ready to stage a coup in essence. There's no real people there to stop them. They are, they are in control of the power, but there are supporters of, Rhaenyra's claim that they have to deal with, and it's very intense. What plays out in this episode, just like, locking everyone in the castle, bringing all the lords that are in the castle to swear fealty to Aegon and the Greens and everything. Basically, under penalty of death, we see them hang one of them and all that stuff. That's all really intense, and it's got me engaged. And so Alicent here brings up, what about Rhaenyra? And they say the former heir, of course, cannot be allowed to remain free. And Otto's like, we need to kill him. They're making Alicent they're trying to make her far more sympathetic. Because Alicent's like, no, I will not have her killed. And this does raise an interesting conversation, because if she is willing to go this far to basically stage a coup, usurp Rhaenyra's claim to the throne, Alicent should know this is a flat-out declaration of war, and it's going to lead to them needing to try and kill them anyway. I understand this is in line with her character, that she doesn't want to kill. She's always trying to be the good person, even though she's done some pretty awful things, and she's probably tries to justify her minds. And so far, I do think Alicent's portrayal is quite consistent, and this decision here, by not trying to deal with, and it's horrible, right? Not trying to deal with Rhaenyra, especially Daemon, as fast as they can, that's going to lead to insane bloodshed and war down the track, that's the logic that she would need to really understand, because it's going to lead to them, one of them needing to be killed, like the leaders of either side, very likely to resolve this conflict now. From what she is going along with. Yes, Otto is kind of pushing it more aggressively than her, but she's not telling him to stop. She's just trying to mitigate the damages. She doesn't want to see Rhaenyra die. She wants to see the king's wishes as she believes fulfilled. She wants to protect her children. Still, her actions will lead to even more bloodshed and loss, because she isn't as ruthless as Otto is here, and I kind of like that about Alicent. So I think they're succeeding in trying to make her more sympathetic. We'll see if they are properly consistent about that with how things play out in the future. Because out of the two characters, by the way, I do like Alicent more than Rhaenyra, but I just hate Alicent's children, and Rhaenyra's children seem pretty cool, mostly. It's revealed that Aegon, who they want to instill on the throne, Aegon is awful, isn't in the keep, and that leads to much of the suspense and conflict in the episode, looking for Aegon. Where is he? And we saw Otto just walk off very purposefully there, and he goes to two of the King's Guard who happen to be twins. So this guy has a brother who's a twin. They're going to go out, look for Aegon to bring to Otto, and Alicent asks Sir Cole, who goes out with Aemond, and Aemond's just, Chad still, to look for him as well. And something interesting is revealed in the exchange when Alicent gets Sir Cole to go out. She says, I trusted to you, Sir Cole, and your loyalty. And then she says this, everything you feel for me as your queen. And he says, I will not fail you. But so she knows Sir Cole loves her, and she's using it to get him to serve her. And she's manipulating him. It doesn't reflect nicely on her. It reveals an interesting relationship between the two. I don't think they have hooked up, let's just say. Alicent is too pious for that, but that also could be what has been keeping Sir Cole, so loyal, because he probably knows that Viserys is going to kick the bucket, and then that might be his opening. But gee, Sir Cole, he has been manipulated by women through this episode quite significantly, and it's going to come up later in terms of a discussion that happens between Alicent and Rhaenys regarding women's power in this world, because Alicent has men serving her that she is manipulating and using for her own benefit, alright? And to say that women, or the show is depicting women not having power, is a false interpretation of what's actually being presented. Okay, so this kind of revelation turned my stomach a bit, and I know I think it fits for the setting, what they're trying to say, but there's these underground fight arenas where they force children to fight what looked to be to the death. I'm so glad they didn't show a kid kill another kid. That would have... I have limits, right? And even if it fits within the world, when violence, especially against children, is depicted in graphic detail, it upsets me too much and I can't continue. One of the things that caused me to nope out of Game of Thrones for a long while, and it was in a YouTube clip that I saw, this was the fight between Oberyn and the Mountain. I wasn't expecting what happened pop. And that was like, I don't need that. It's way too graphic, and it turned me off for ages. And when I eventually did come around to watching again, yeah, I skipped those things. Happy to know that I have the warning. Not necessarily happy I saw it in the first place. But there is a line for me, and it goes too far. And I'm glad they didn't cross that line. It was already turning my stomach a lot. And like I said, they didn't show a child get killed. But the very idea of them, what happens to them, just is... It's emotionally distressing in the sense that if you try... Like, I have children, and so... Yeah, they get their nails grown out and they file their teeth and they just force these kids to fight. So that's disgusting. And you find out that Aegon likes to watch this stuff, all right? And one of the brothers is trying to tell the other brother, the twin, that Aegon is a horrible king. This is where he comes to, and that's not all how bad it gets. He goes, look over here. They turn, and then they see what looks to be a very Targaryen-looking child. This is clearly one of Aegon's bastards. And they said, one of many I'd wager. And if there is a way to make me hate Aegon, this is one of those big ways. Abandoning your own children to... abandoning them is worse enough, but then happily seeing them go into a life of slavery and torture and things... and Aegon seems to know this very clearly. So at this point, I'm rooting to see Aegon's death. He's a rapist. He's this vile, awful person. It's like, all right, if you want to build a satisfactory moment where I see this character die, Aegon, kind of like what they did with Joffrey in Game of Thrones, you're doing a good job, okay? Because right now, yeah, kill this absolute bastard of a guy. And look, by the way, this is effective writing if they're doing this intentionally, okay? They're getting a very strong emotional reaction to me. They're getting me invested. I want to see a character die. I know that. I mean, this is what I did with my own book, Shadow of the Conqueror. Made my character unlikable purposefully to challenge the reader and also make them question their own kind of views about redemption. And while I'm on that note, you can, if you haven't tried out my book, there's a new way you can just dive into it. It's a graphic novel adaptation. Graphic novels are awesome. I've loved comic books my whole life. When they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, it's just great to see kind of the emotion reflected and depicted in some of the artwork. I got some of the best artwork you can get. Mike S. Miller, interesting connection with Game of Thrones. He's the artist of The Hedge Knight. If we can see that in shot, it's out of shot. But he worked directly with George R. R. Martin on The Hedge Knight. That's the artist who did the graphic novel adaptation of Shadow of the Conqueror. It's available on Indiegogo, and you can also get the second edition version of the trade published novel with collector edition covers, all leather-bound, and leather-bound both in the graphic novel and the trade published novel are available. It's going great. I'd love to try to push it to as far as we can get it because I'm going to just be making more. Check it out, guys. I really think you'll love it. And the support for this project just means I'm going to be expanding and produce more. Share it if you can as well. Let's push it to the heights that we can reach it to. And yeah, remember, like, the character is a former tyrannical emperor. I don't pull any punches, and so I get the idea of making a character unlikable, doing it intentionally and trying to hit a balance. So if they're trying to do that here with Aegon, they're doing a very good job. Potential dumb moment here, okay? We see the Lord who was wanting to not bend the knee, and he does, and you could see the head is reluctant, and he's like leaving the castle, and at this point I'm thinking, he shouldn't have even been able to get this far. I thought they would have like closed all the doors, and so I don't know why they are like depicting that he got even outside of the castle, the keep, to get near his horse to leave. The whole place should be locked down. So I was like, this is a bit silly. They even have, look, the door's open over there. It's like, this should be on insane lockdown. And if they were letting him get away, I would have been like, what are you doing? They don't. They of course see him leaving and he gets arrested, for want of a better word. And they know that he was trying to get free to probably tell Rhaenyra and Daemon. He could have done that, though, without him even leaving. Have him try and find ways to leave. He like walks to the entry hall, which would also be the exit point, and see the guards there. And he walks to another thing, and then a guard says, "My lord, I've been noticing that you've been making the rounds to the castle's exits. You've been ordered to remain in your quarters, and then actually have a moment where he's like, oh yeah, I'll go. And then he comes back and sees someone, and he actually tries to run to get to the door, and then makes just his running to get to his horse, and then they pounce on him, right? They could have done it much better, and I think that would have built the tension even more, so they could have achieved what they wanted in a way that just doesn't make you scratch your head like, why did they even let him get this far? Just look, I think it's a more minor criticism here, because they do stop him, and thank goodness they do. And we see him hanging from one of the internal courtyards as a result. Yeah, this is him trying to escape, and look, I guess they build the tension up well enough. And why would they even open the doors for him here? It's like some of the other guards weren't told that no one's allowed to leave. It's like, oh, you want to leave? We'll even open the outer gate, and then other people come, hold the gate, and they grab him. But okay, so those guards knew to not let him leave. What about the guys on the gate who are opening the door? It doesn't make sense, does it? This scene really shows Alicent's true remorse for Viserys' death. I like that, okay? I like that she truly did love him, and that was depicted consistently. She was also his caretaker towards his latter years, looking after him, and there was a true kind of bond of affection built between the two. And so it wasn't just like she was a reluctant participant in that marriage from the get-go. No, she actually did love him and support him. I'm glad about that. I'm glad that they're showing true remorse for his death, because Viserys was a genuinely great king. I love the character. And people, yes, he made mistakes. I know Viserys made mistakes, but his goal was peace, right? And that was the consistent theme with his character all throughout. Yes, he was slower to respond to the war with the Crab King and everything, because he didn't want to go to war. He wanted peace. He wanted peace in his family. And there is a description of him in this episode that as a result, I found very satisfying. And it says multiple times, and it was actually first said at towards the beginning of the episode, where Otto announces that the king is dead, and they call him Viserys the Peaceful. And I loved that. I was like, what a great tribute for Viserys in the end, and it reflects exactly the consistent way his character was written. It was intentional. They knew that and I said his main goal was peace in last episode, before I even knew that they would call him Viserys the Peaceful, okay? Because that was his primary goal in so many things, and the fact that they call him Viserys the Peaceful is just wonderful. I loved it. And also, Viserys doubted in previous episodes, how will he be remembered? And he says, I haven't done great things. And I think he's actually achieved one of the greater things in many of the kings of Westeros: maintain peace. Okay, it was him that was preventing a lot of the war. Now, granted, people might say it was his his decisions that lead to this civil war. I think it was more Otto and Otto's forked tongue, let's call it. And things, and he just was trying to follow the best counsel that he could in every moment of his life, all right? And for the most part, yes, he did achieve peace. It was him that was holding things in peace, and it's his death and his loss where allows people to now circumvent his wishes, misunderstand his wishes, and things gonna go very bad as well. So yes, he did achieve peace, and what a great achievement. Greater achievement than kings winning battles and wars and everything. And so he was wondering how it would be remembered. Being remembered as the Peaceful is probably one of the greatest titles I think any king could hope to aspire and achieve, and I love that they gave it to him. I love that character. Like I said, episodes 1 to 8, I'll always kind of cherish the moments of that character's progression and conclusion, and the final show of strength and fulfilling his duty in episode 8, that walk and the speech to his family, I'll always love. Okay. Need to talk about this scene. Alicent and Rhaenys. Alicent, is trying to convince Rhaenys to join their side, and she tries to kind of play him saying, you should have always been queen. And it leads Rhaenys to say some interesting things that seemed a bit more aimed for the modern audience than necessarily the world. But I think the world that this, the show is set in, I think you could make an argument that this is valid enough from Rhaenys' perspective. Also, it's also words that Alicent says here as well. The Iron Throne was yours to rule. Viserys would have lived his days as a country lord. Here we are. Like, Rhaenys would not have made a better queen ruler than Viserys. Not by a long shot, especially in what it's revealed, what she's willing to do so callously to the common folk. Unneededly so. Awful character. I hate Rhaenys now. And we'll see if they actually follow through in terms of how people should react to what she does here. So no, one, she would have made an awful ruler, and the idea that, women were because they even say that, men have inherent violent natures and women need to guide them to not be so violent, and they haven't seen in this show where Rhaenys just kills thousands of people callously without any regard, and if the show's like, oh yeah, women aren't violent, they don't kill people, men are more violent, they show that lady kill thousands, without even a blink, and she doesn't care about it. It's what are you trying to say, show? It's almost like that there was some type of bit of woke messaging that they wanted to inject into these lines, but then they weren't aware of the greater message of the show. Now, it could be that this could be the honest perspective of these characters, because Rhaenys doesn't object to what Alicent says, because Alicent feeds some of these lines as well. So Alicent, she says, we do not rule, but we may guide the men that do. And I was like, it's almost like they're trying to say, oh, it's a horrible world, women don't have any power, but they have huge amounts of power. Who's essentially ruling in this moment before the new king is crowned? It's Alicent. Everyone's deferring to her. Alicent has insane power, and she's almost been ruling by de facto for multiple years. When they say, we must guide people who do, Viserys has almost been bedridden for a long time. She's been the one mostly in power, and she wasn't the one guiding Viserys while he was incapacitated. She was just taking the lead. I'm sure she was trying to fulfill Viserys' wishes from her own perspective. That's what she believed. But I also reckon that there was just a lot of decisions she made herself without needing to guide men to be able to rule that. No, she has had a position of rulership, so it's contradicted. And it's just interesting. Feels a bit disingenuous now from that perspective, coming from Alicent, when she has essentially ruled for a long time, but is she doing it just to appease and placate Rhaenys here? Perhaps, would she be willing to be that disingenuous? I think it's probably very in line with the level people are willing to skew perspective and truth to present a certain picture to a person they're trying to convince. People, and we've seen moral concessions Alicent making, so that's a fair enough interpretation of what's going on here. Yeah, and then she says, guide them gently away from violence and sure destruction. It's and instead towards peace. Is and she's saying, it's women that needs to guide men away from violence and sure destruction. It's there are some horrible things that women have done, in this show. And I think even Alicent, has taken part in these things. So, and probably will be worse. So it does come off as hypocritical. Also, what about Viserys the Peaceful? It wasn't Alicent guiding him to be more peaceful. In fact, she's pushed for more conflict and potential war, demanding an eye from one of Rhaenyra's children, and it was Viserys who pushed for a peaceful outcome. He was the one guiding people to peace. The man, not Alicent. And so the fact that Alicent is saying women will guide men to peace who will be violent when they've had such a peaceful male character is incredibly hypocritical and just wrong for Alicent to say here. It's like she's taken leave of her senses, or the writers have not even been paying attention to what's being depicted in the show. So it's just, like I said, very interesting that they're proposing a perspective here that women are less violent and need to guide men away from violence, and then we see a woman in this episode just slaughter at minimum thousands of people carelessly. So, is that the defense, though? Because, again, if the show was intent on pushing a certain message about men and women, right, in these lines, they wouldn't then show women being so awful and everything, because this is the reality. Women are capable of being as awful as men, all right? They're not inherently more moral or less moral. They're people. Men and women share all the same flaws as each other when it comes to perspective and morality and other things like that. Granted, how men and women naturally choose to express aggression and even violent tendencies, there is a difference there. Men usually, oftentimes, people will resort to the most accessible tools they have available to enact their will, and if it's a negative will, something that's destructive, okay, it'll lead to bad things. What are the easiest tools they have available? Men have a tool that is quite available and quite effective. That's that men are on average stronger. That's just the reality. And so men do resort to expressing physical, actions more easily than women. Women do as well, but when it comes to women, bad women, wanting to express bad intent and bad things and everything like that, they resort to tools that are more easily accessible to them. There's a saying that poison's a woman's weapon. There's some, a small amount of truth to that, as well as gossip, character assassination, and other things and stuff. And so, yeah, women capable of being as awful as men capable of being awful as women. We're people. Just, there is a truth in terms of how that awfulness can be expressed. There can be a difference, all right? And so, anyway, yeah, women being inherently less violent subverted a bit in this episode when, a woman slaughters thousands. One thing that I think, is a bit of a flaw, like, is she so blind that she can't see the flaws of Aegon, okay? I mean, yes, she wants to instill Aegon on the throne to protect her family, but she knows how awful Aegon is. She knows he's a full-on rapist. She says, you're no son of mine, last episode, slapped him in the face and everything. And so with how good Alicent is wanting to present herself to being, how could she not realize how awful a king Aegon would also be? I think because of that, it would have helped me if there was a bit more justification presented for Alicent choosing Aegon to be king, or to... Does she have a way to try and believe that he will overcome his flaws or be a good king or anything? Because, of course I don't see it. I think Aegon is awful, and so awful that it's like, I think she should know it too. And she'll be like, when Viserys says, Aegon needs to be king, her response is like, but Aegon's awful. He'd be an awful king. What are you saying, Viserys? Something else needed to be established to get us there for her to have that belief. Oh, and so this is a line from Rhaenys here. It's like, a queen must count the cost of her people, and she says, and then Rhaenys says, and yet you still toil in service to men. And that's not true. Like, she's almost, like I said, been ruling the kingdom while Viserys has been, sick. It's technically in service to him, but she's been calling the shots in a lot of cases. He says, you desire not to be free, but to make a window in the wall of your prison. And, like, they're trying to make it, or depict that Alicent's like, oh, the truth hurts, but Alicent is like, that's not real, though. She's not been in the service of men. She has crazy power. In fact, there are men explicitly in the service to her that she has been manipulating and controlling. Sir Cole and the strong guy, Clubfoot. Like, they are basically simps to her, almost literally, actually, where she even uses her feet in a sexual way, because Clubfoot reacts to it. She uses her sexuality to get what she wants. It's just like, so her face there just doesn't ring true, when she should know quite clearly that there are heaps of men that serve her, like insane. Like, the Kingsguard also, a lot of them serve her. She can order so many men around. She has the lives of countless men in her hands, and then it's like, oh, you are trapped in the service of men. That's not true. And so I don't even think it feels true for Rhaenys to say that from her perspective, because yes, the throne was robbed of her, and what she said to, say, Rhaenyra early on, that like, she could actually genuinely believe that men would tear the world apart before letting a woman rule. I think that's more in line with her belief and perspective, but this I don't think is true, and it doesn't. For me, it doesn't make sense that Rhaenys would say that or have that perspective when she would be able to see the power Alicent has. And look, is it to try and, I guess, destabilize her, seed doubt in her mind by trying to say that something that Rhaenys actually knows to be untrue? Look, it just rings in unrealistic to me from the perspective of what's actually depicted in the show. And then Rhaenys says, have you never imagined yourself on the Iron Throne? Which also is a bit of a hint that I think Rhaenys hasn't really given up like that, grudge she has for not being given the throne, and that she might still want it as well. So, as I mentioned, lots to talk about in this episode, and what comes next here is just... is it too contrived? Okay, so Cole and Aemond have been looking for Aegon, and while they've been looking, they happen to stumble upon the other two Kingsguard looking for Aegon, and the meeting of Sir Otto meeting with the White Worm, because the White Worm sent a messenger to the other guys that she knows where Aegon is. And so it's a big city, and they just happen to come across this exact location at this exact time to see this exact meeting. Oh, that is so astronomically unlikely. Okay, I'm willing to give it more of a pass because we see so few moments like this in the show. And if this is a one-off, okay, sometimes serendipitous, circumstantial things that you think are so unrealistic happen. For me, it usually happens in response to prayer, which leads me to increase my own faith and everything like that. Because honestly, some of the most serendipitous things happen in response to petitions to God in my own, life experience and stuff. So I'm not saying things like that don't happen, all right? And because of that, I could let some of them slide because, yes, serendipity exists in real life, circumstance and everything, and so few is shown in this series that this might be one of those few cases where it happens like that. And look, there probably is other cases where very unlikely things happen that I probably haven't been paying too much attention to and have slipped under my radar. But compare this to Rings of Power, where such astronomical bullcrap happens to drive the plot forward in almost every single way, like the meeting of Galadriel and Halbrand just in the middle of the ocean, and that is so. This is like, compare meeting someone at the exact right time and location in a city to an ocean, right? There is pushing the realms of belief and then jumping off a cliff is like, are you kidding me? And that's just one moment. It happens again and again and again in Rings of Power, where this is one of the larger moments, but at least there have been a lot of them, so perhaps I could give it more of a slide. Still, it is so unlikely, and they are so lucky that they saw this, because a lot of the show is built on, Sir Cole getting and finding Aegon, to be able to... Well, it's funny, because if Otto finds Aegon, not much different would have necessarily happened, except what they tell Aegon. So the big difference is Alicent tells Aegon to not kill Rhaenyra, her family, and everything like that. We can't have, your rule be founded on bloodshed. Where it seems like Otto's intent was to... I don't know, he wanted Aegon crowned pretty soon, but use Aegon to tell Aegon, you need to, you're going to be the king, this is the thing, you need to order Rhaenyra and the family killed. But it almost seemed like the show was trying to portray something even more, like by Otto having Aegon, he would have more leverage to force Alicent to agree to killing off Rhaenyra and Daemon and sending in people to attack him straight away. So that's what it seems to be implied. I don't exactly know what his exact plan would have been, but I think I can go off of the implication that, yeah, Otto is going to have leverage somehow more so to make sure and ensure that's going to happen, more violence. Alicent doesn't want that, and so, yes, significant enough things would change based on who gets to Aegon first, and, Sir Cole and Aemond are only able to do that because of sheer luck. I do like the scene here with the White Worm where she is the only one, well, I'm sure that other people object, but she's trying to use the leverage she has to force the king, or force Otto in this instance, to stop the abuse of the children in those fight rings. I was like, oh, I like you more, lady. Good on you for fighting for the little guy. And she even goes so far as to threaten with blackmail, saying, hey, I could have killed, the prince here, and I didn't, and so you need to do what I say, essentially, and you can only instill your grandson on the throne thanks to me. And she says, so when, she says, remember it was me who put him there. Otto's response and delivery is perfect here, because the subtext, what he's really saying, because he's insulted by this. You've threatened my grandson, you've threatened my plans and everything like that, and you want me to remember what you're doing here. She's saying, remember that it's my, be grateful for what I'm doing, but Otto's response is, I will remember, and it's delivered in the exact way as like, yeah, I'm not going to forget this insult, you're dead, and I'm not forgetting this, like, delivered perfectly. So yeah, she says, I could have killed him easily as a wasp on fruit. There is no power but what the people allow you to take. And so she's speaking big words to someone with a lot of power. And Otto's response here, look at it. I will remember. It's like, yeah, she's dead. And, great delivery. Like, there are great moments in this episode too. Don't misunderstand me, even though I have the most criticisms for this episode amongst them all. I still really enjoyed it. I found it to be an extremely engaging and intense episode. I was on the edge of my seat watching. I really did enjoy it. So they find Aegon hidden underneath, that altar thing in the middle of a larger, it's a temple set thing. And it's shown that Aegon, he seems to know what's going on. I guess the White Worm told him, and he wants none of it. He's trying to run away. He's like, he does not want to be king. And it's like, good. He'll be an awful king. He's avoided authority his entire life. They get him out, and then they are met by Aemond and Sir Cole, because they clearly followed them there. And so I noticed something here that just got back to, look, it's one of those small things that of course I would notice, but I'm glad they put it in there, because in terms of how this show depicts many medieval elements, like, look, great cloak, great costume, the weapons have been done really well, and when you revealed that, I was like, hang on, that doesn't look like a regular sword. Look at the curve on the end. That looks like a single edge. Is that a falchion I see before me? Well, we get confirmation on that a little bit later, because Aegon takes this moment of pause and distraction to try and get free. He smacks his arm off, runs away, and so Aemond chases after him, and they get in a fight. And look, you can kind of see it here, but you see it clearly in other parts. Yes, this guy, one of the twin Kingsguard, he is indeed using a falchion. It's a very functional, realistic looking falchion. I love it because it's a medieval setting, and so often falchions are just ignored like they don't exist. And so to see him, using a falchion, the actual fight scene isn't the best that they've done. Some casual kind of slapping of the sword, a bit back. Cuts to Aemond chasing down Aegon, and so this fighting here, good kick. That wasn't a bad move there. He drops the sword. We get that's a really functional, authentic medieval arming sword there. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Love it. It is basic choreography. But look here, do you see his sword? That's a falchion, baby. Aemond's trying to wrestle Aegon there. And, alright, question. This is the guy's brother who's watching his twin fight Sir Cole, and he even, the one fighting Sir Cole says, are you gonna help me? And he doesn't. It's like, does he know that Sir Cole wouldn't kill him, that this is just like a fight to disarm everything? I don't know, that's an assumption. Maybe he knows Sir Cole so well that he wouldn't. Maybe they're friends with him, who knows? And he's confident enough that Cole is just going to disarm you, so I don't need to get involved. If that's the case, I could see it justified. If it's not to that, and there's a high chance that the brother might die, it's like, okay, this guy just doesn't give a stuff about his brother. He doesn't want to help, because he feels Aegon's an awful king, and so will be an awful king, rightly so. and just letting them go. And so Aegon is giggling. It's like it's a joke to him. And good characterization. And Aegon says, I was hoping you'd disappear. And then it's like, is our father truly dead? And what Aegon says here, it's good characterization. He says, look, I'll jump on a boat. I'll leave forever. I don't want to be king. And I mean, that's almost exactly what Aemon wants to hear. But then Sir Cole comes and is like, nope. Got orders from the Queen. He's extremely loyal and is going to make sure that Aegon gets brought in. All right, so this choreography here gets pretty weak. Like, he twists the guy's arm, right? And then he's going to knock away the sword in disarm. But what is the guy doing with his... If your arm gets twisted and you're in a fight, right, you'll just grab it with the other hand to get more leverage. And so the fact that he just holds his arm back, it's pretty silly. And then... Look at that. Oh, by the way, Falchion, love to see. Look, he's just talking about it. He's like, oh no, I can't do anything. Yeah, you can. Grab it like that. And then he just lets it get knocked aside. It's like, you had another hand. Oh, close up of the sword. We're going back. Hey, look at that. Good, solid, functional, realistic Falchion. It's good to see, like, I don't know, small things, right? But it's like very authentic, medieval-inspired world. Love to see it. That's actually probably the cleanest shot we have there as well. Because the crosscut is also, we saw it on profile, it was quite thin as well. It's really functional. It's good. I love to see it. Yeah, I really think that they should have shown Sir Cole age more. I think like 30 years have passed, if not more, since the beginning. And I know that there are some people who look like they never age, but there are small signs. I mean, look at Tom Cruise. Yes, it's like the guy doesn't age, but you can see just signs and wrinkles there. There's no change. Give him a tiny peppering of grey in the sides of his hair or something for Sir Cole, because... that really makes it feel like, you know, no time has changed at all. I think they could have done at least 1 or 2 things to just to show the passage of time. 30 years, okay? So I think he would be almost in his 50s, at least late 40s, Sir Cole, right here. And he looks like, I don't know, 20 or early 30s, if that. We'll get a better shot of him. But anyway, Aegon was saying, let me go free, but... Cole won't let that happen. But I mean, look at Cole, right? He's like smooth face, barely a wrinkle, hair still immaculate. That's a guy in his 20s, not late 40s or 50s. Remember, 30 years have passed. He was introduced to the first episodes as well. He was already, in joust. And if you're like, let's be generous, maybe 18 at the youngest at that point. And then 30 years on, yeah, he would be 48. And that's if more time might have actually passed. I forgot exactly how much time has passed. And so, yeah, point of criticism, they could have made him show some signs of age. And I know Daemon hasn't shown... for some reason, I don't know, Targaryens... it's more believable that a Targaryen could age more gracefully than other people. They're just special-looking people, and the fact that they already have white hair will be able to hide signs of age much easier and better than Sir Cole here. So, good scene between Alicent and Otto here, where she finally just... comes out and says, yeah, you've been manipulating to your own ends. And he's like, but look what I gave you. I gave you a throne. Would you not want that for yourself? And she says, I don't know. I think that's a good enough question. Because she probably could have been much happier if she married someone not for political reasons, someone she truly fell in love with and have a lovely family and everything. Yeah, she could have been much happier, but she did end up loving Viserys. We saw her remorse. She loves her children. And so from the perspective there, it's like, would you want... I don't know, does she love her children? Like, her children are pretty awful. Maybe she would have had some better ones with someone else. Also, but maybe they wouldn't have turned out as good, because I think the awfulness of Aegon is also partly due to the way that she's raised them. And she's probably learning from experience, because she wasn't really raised well by Otto. Otto used her for his own ends, for his own political goals and things. And so it seems like she's just continued on that tradition. You know, she says, I've been a piece that you've moved about the board. And now she's like, you've used me. Now the debt's come due. You need to follow me and do what I say here. Very interesting thing. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad that she came out and aware of what's gone on in her life. She says, "I wanted whatever you impressed upon me to want." Okay? But now she's in too deep. Otto has manipulated her to this point quite, significantly. And she has to just go on to try and save her children's life to fulfill what she feels is the king's last wishes. But I do like this line here. And look, it seems like they're going out of their way to make Alicent more sympathetic than the book version. I'm not opposed to that. I haven't read the book, so I'm not hung up on wanting it to be exactly right. But I've already, Gary from Nerdrotic feels that this version, the show version, is superior to the book. I would almost tend to agree, especially from what I've heard about who Viserys was in the book compared to how the show, and Viserys is my favourite part of the show, and so it seems like the show is superior to the book, and I don't mind, again, I'm not a Puritan, I haven't read it and everything, so I can't really say I don't mind, because I don't have that connection, but still, I'm glad that they are showing Alicent's decline to her moral standards being whittled away bit by bit. It seems gradual, and if they're going to be true to that, they're going to keep going all the way. I think there would be a bit of be a bit unsatisfying if they try and make her sympathetic and have plausible deniability for everything, especially, look, I don't know exactly what happens, but I've been told that these women are going to be responsible for some crazy bad stuff, and if they're going to try and justify plausible deniability that it was other people leading her along and stumbling along where Alicent just happens to be part of these horrible things, that would feel a bit disingenuous, especially because it really feels like that they're leading her into a kind of moral fall where she gives up on those standards and she goes all in to try and win a war, and like I said, if it's just going to be like, oh, she was just a powerless woman that was swept up in the plans and machinations of men, and it's the men that are causing all these bad things, and for a certain message, if they end up doing that, that would come off very unsatisfying for me. I think it would be very true to not only the characters and what they're setting up in terms of where you can see the projection of these characters, it'd be more true to reality in life to show that, guess what, both men and women can be awful, but both men and women can be good. And so, let's see where they go, and like I said, so, because people might argue that her saying this line, reluctance to murder is not a weakness, is the show going out of their way to make it look like she is not going to be responsible for the bad things. It's only the men around her that's forcing her and to take part in it. Okay, there could be interpretation that way. I think I like what they've done so far, and they're not there yet, to show that it's more gradual, her decline into giving up any pretense of goodness and saying, yes, we just need to slaughter them all, okay? And I'm glad that there was at least someone who voiced this truth. Reluctance to murder is not a weakness and should never be considered, even in these circumstances where they feel that, death must happen. And war is a completely different bag of fish. I understand that, and I know that horrifying things sometimes do need to be considered, and to end war. For instance, the atomic bomb in Hiroshima, okay, I understand the logic of why the US was forced to do that. They would have lost in tremendous lives of their own soldiers by committing to a land invasion to force Japan to surrender, where they have shown that they will fight to the last man no matter what. More lives would have been lost, both Japanese and US lives, unless they hit Japan with such a massive hammer to force them to surrender. And so that's the logic behind it. And so sometimes horrifying things do need to be considered in war. I get that. I understand it. Okay. Still, we should always consider those things with the greatest amount of reluctance, and looking for ways to avoid loss of life in any way, in warfare and everything, should never be considered a weakness. All right. And I'm glad Alicent is voicing that, okay? There should be a voice of protest to what's going on, and it makes sense. Alicent's character arc and everything fits her the most, so I don't believe that this was just given to her to show that it's all the men being awful and the woman being, because they show a woman doing an awful thing in this episode anyway, so I don't see that narrative playing out in this episode, all right? We'll see where it goes, because there is potential that that narrative could come about if they don't stay true to the projection of this character, which is going towards what looks to be basically committing to this war, and because look at the concessions she's made. They've been showing her make these moral concessions bit by bit by bit. So that projection shows it's going to get worse. All right? We'll see if they remain true to it. All right. One of the scenes. There's multiple the scenes in this episode. The foot scene. Yeah, look, I mean, it makes sense. Look, anyone can have a fetish. I'm not saying that they can't have a fetish, right? It's just the thing that happens. And the fact that he has a deformed foot, you can kind of understand why he might appreciate more pristine-looking feet. It's very telling. It shows some of the concessions that Allison is willing to do to get what she wants. It also... I kind of also appreciate that it wasn't just full-blown, take all your clothes off, basically, for me, because I think that would be too far for Allison as well, you know? She believes, she's trying to do the right thing, but even that, she knows that she's made moral concessions and allowed awful things to happen that she hasn't redressed and hasn't punished, like, she didn't, and this is actually a bit in line with the character, she didn't punish Clubfoot here for murdering his own family to get Otto as Hand of the King, okay? She was willing to let that slide because it helped her out. That's an awful thing. Awful thing to allow evil to be done because it serves your own ends, okay? You should not justify evil for even what you feel is a greater good, okay? The ends do not justify the means. Allison is clearly falling into that philosophy. She did it with this guy already. She didn't punish her son for rape, right? She didn't punish Sir Cole for accidentally killing the guy in the thing because it all helped her out. And so these are all consistent concessions. But yet she still tries to present herself as a pious, good person, and she is trying to be a good person, just is failing pretty bad at it by all these things that she has not addressed and allowed other people to get away with awful things, and maybe that's one of her justifications. I wasn't the one that did it, it's these awful people doing it, but her not... She has the power to punish those people for those bad actions, and she didn't because it was in the service to her own goals, showing that Allison has some pretty awful aspects to her character as well. She is by no means innocent. She's not an innocent person. I do like that there's a side to her that she's trying to be good. She doesn't want to kill Rhaenyra and everything like that. And so, what a really complex, intriguing, well-written character, okay? It's not just one or the other. And... so in this scene with the feet, right, because she is trying to maintain that appearance of dignity, of virtue, and everything like that, I don't think she would be willing to basically whore herself out, strip stuff. But she does it in part. That's the thing. She is willing it to do a level because I guess she's just looking at it's just feet. It's weird. You want to see my feet? It's still demeaning, okay? And it's still a lesser type of using her sexuality to get what she wants, which is not a very, moral thing in my mind. Well, hang on. All right, let me pull it back, okay? I'm against, of course, prostitution, pornography, all that stuff. You know me, I'm a very conservative guy and everything like that. It's not to say I don't think women can put on makeup or anything to attract a good, catch and everything, or men can't get strong, or, because usually the way men, attract women is by physical strength, but also things that competence, okay, achievements and stuff, and the men seeking to get those to find a good woman, that's just normal. I'm not shaming that in terms of women using sexuality in that way, or men using sexuality to attract a good woman, or anything, right? There is, of course, pushing it too far, and I think Allison is actually pushing too high because she would never, hook up with this guy or anything like that, and she lets him. She lets him. Enjoy himself in her presence, which is creepy as hell, and it's gross, and she's willing to do it because he will, and so, yes, of course she's stepped over a line here. And by the way, I'm not excusing the Clubfoot guy. He is an awful person, and clearly a creep now as well. The reason why I'm focusing on Allison here is that it's a more interesting discussion in the way that she tries to present herself as being such a noble, virtuous person, and looking at the concessions that she's making here. And it is in line with her character, and as I mentioned, I think it's more in line that she's, it's just feet, it's weird, but whatever, and she wouldn't have gone all the way, which is why I think it actually fits for the narrative that it is a fetish and it's not just him saying, let me look at everything, essentially. But man, oh, look, it's meant to be awkward. They still hold it for too long, where when he starts to enjoy himself, we saw enough. You could have cut that. You didn't have to hold it. But again, I guess they want it intentionally. And if it was to make you uncomfortable, feel gross, they certainly achieve that. But so, look, as I've explained all here, it reveals a lot about the characters. Okay, it's a very effective scene. It shows you what Alicent's, or more of the concessions that she's making. It fits in with this guy. It explains why he has been, helping Alicent out. Not just, I think he has a lot of reasons. This is just one of the other reasons. And also, so Alicent is using this guy and using Cole like a thought, essentially, letting them, leading them on, even letting them enjoy themselves, right? Because it serves her purposes, where she probably has no intention to actually, have a relationship with either of them at all. And look, the build-up actually was also done well, where at first you didn't know what she took her shoes off. I thought it was like, I don't know, get comfortable and shit, but then she putting it on the table, you had no idea why she was doing that. But when she starts to take the socks off, and you saw the guy's eyes, oh, you know exactly what's going on. And they didn't need to spell it out, they're showing. And so this is demonstrating the competence of the people making the show. It's still there. This is still a good episode. Very engaging. Interesting thing. One of those twins that doesn't support what's happening with the king, everything like that, decides to free Rhaenys. She mustn't have had a lot of guards, but he probably could have just said, look, I'm the king's guard, move. But we hear a kind of someone say, get out of my way. And so it's a bit of a command. But still, I think he has the authority to enter her chambers, even with a guard on duty, but to leave with her, that's a different. He would have to probably kill someone and then question how many guards are actually on duty here. But he comes in and is like, it's an injustice, I will take you to freedom. Yes, I cannot let this treachery stand. And he probably knows by freeing her, she will go directly to Rhaenyra and Daemon, because to try and circumvent what's actually happening, the treachery, is to get word as fast as possible to Rhaenyra and Daemon. They have dragons, they've got soldiers, they have power and everything. They walk across courtyard, they see the guy hanging, but there's no other guards anywhere else. Like, no one should be allowed out of their quarters. And so I was thinking that they would use kind of hidden passages the whole way, but they end up walking through the open courtyard. No one sees this? It's like, it would be suspicious. There's a dead body hanging there. I think they did it for the dead body. It would have made sense if he led them into, I don't know who's living in Rhaenyra's old quarters, but we saw that it has like a thing in the mural that opens up to the passageways, which seems to be completely hidden passageway to the exit. That seems to be where they come out. They come out in the same way. They end up walking through the crypt undercroft thing that we saw Rhaenyra need to pass through when Daemon was leading her out. And so I thought they would have used that, but anyway, they get there eventually. And she's potentially going to escape. But we also hear, Clubfoot guy, he organizes the attempted assassination of the White Worm. But we don't see a death. We just see a burning building. So I think she's clearly survived this and going to be working against them in revenge as a result. And then Rhaenys and this guy, look, again, they get separated. It seems pretty arbitrary. Like, I don't think this is really important. By the way, who is not noticing this? He's in his royal armor still, and they're trying to avoid the town guard. And it's like, well, if that's why you're wearing your armor, like, just take it off, wear normal things. You have her covered up, but he would have stood out like a sore thumb. I think that previously they literally have them walking down a thing, see guys like, oh, we better go a different way, when you would stand out like a sore thumb in the armor. So it's baffling why they have him in the armor in these scenes. It doesn't make sense. And they're smarter than this. So that's odd. And then the fact that they just get separated as well seemed a little too convenient. He wants to take her to the dock. She wants to get to the dragon. But all the people are getting funneled into, I don't know what it's called. It's like this building above where the dragons are kept, and it can house the most amount of people. That's where the coronation is going to happen, and so the town's guard are funneling as many people as possible to see the coronation, and they're getting caught in the thing. And I just don't think the separation would have been as play out like this. If you've ever determined, she's really important, you'd be very determined to not lose her, and right here is the separate, like, there, he let go, she gets pushed back by the crowd, he's moving forward, and suddenly he did, like, you were holding on to her. As soon as you let go, you would look back. But it was like, no, he just felt she was behind him as he was moving forward. She's getting caught by the crowd, and so he looks back thinking she was there, now she's gone, and it's completely lost. That's when he finally looks back. Where is she now? It's like, I don't know. I'm like, he's also the town guard. He could just draw his sword, order people to move out of the way. He's still wearing his armor, but that doesn't play. Like, would have made sense if he wasn't wearing his armor, therefore I didn't have the authority to be able to command people to move. But anyway, that's what the show wants us to swallow. I think it's a little too much, but it's not a huge thing. It's still just like, come on. Okay, hate this guy. I hate him. He's awful. Let him die. Don't want him to be king. But they do try and make him somewhat sympathetic. And look, at least he knows he'd be an awful... Well, actually, no, he doesn't know he wants to. He has no idea of responsibility. He just doesn't want to be it because he's a lazy lout. He just wants to sleep with women and drink. Not only sleep, he wants to rape and watch children kill themselves. What an awful person, right? And so he's like, you're dragging me to be the king against my will. And it seems like they're trying to make him sympathetic when he says, Father didn't even like me. Do you even love me, Mother? It's like, are they trying to imply that he's so awful partially because he has felt abandoned and unloved by his parents? That actually might be quite true. Like, knowing who... We didn't actually see any scene contextualize how Viserys thought of Aegon. Okay, I would have actually appreciated that, because I think Viserys would have hated Aegon. The lazy, drunkard, sleeping around, whoring, jerk, right? Of course you would hate the guy. And then, Viserys, why didn't you do anything to get him to shape up? That means he probably wasn't a great father. Alicent didn't seem to take much, control to get this guy on track. Talked about that extensively in my last episode review. But anyway, he's saying he's had 20 years to name me heir. He never did. She's like, no, he wanted you to be heir. He didn't even like me. Also, it's an effective scene because it starts to show that when he's looking at the dagger, he's like, maybe I will like this. And that increases, where it seems to be depicted that Aegon seems to get more on board with the idea of having all this power and be king towards the end. Also, the adoration and cheering. I think the show is very effective in showing that. This guy feels genuinely unloved. Did that lead him to be awful? Or did they unlove him? Do they not love him because he was awful? Chicken and egg, who knows? Doesn't make me like the guy anymore. It's because people don't love me. I'm sorry. But he feels unloved. And why that's effective, all the adoration and cheering and love he seems to feel when he's getting crowned very much feeds into what he feels he has needed his whole life and things, and that makes him like the idea of being king, and he gets on board with it, and so it's all justified, it's all set up and well depicted. And it's interesting, he asks his mum, do you love me? And her response is, you imbecile, but we don't see her answer, and so her response is like, it seems like, of course I love you, why are you so stupid in asking me, you imbecile? I'm not sure she does, though, and she doesn't answer, and so it's not necessarily, answering it, because it cuts away before she confirms. She says, you're an idiot. Take from that what you will. Everyone's getting funneled in, coming to the big moment. And all right, man, oh my goodness, there are so many people in this crowd. This is, and there are other shots where it is at least... It could be 5,000, if not more. Crazy amount of people here. That's important for later. This is really well done so far in terms of the lead-in. I love we have both the gold cloaks, which are the town's guard, and the red keep guards. Interesting. The guys of the red keep are wearing red, and I see symmetry there. It's like, they do good things, okay? How they pay attention to those things, right? Look at their heraldry that these trumpeters are wearing. The outfits are just brilliant. Like, there's so much to appreciate in this. Them all drawing swords, lowering the swords as he passes. Looks great. It gives a real epic feel. And then, again, look how many people are in this thing. Okay? And so this is, like, genuinely epic. It's like, if this was in a high-budget film, I would feel completely satisfied that they achieved the look what they're going for. And it looks so much better than than Rings of Power. Lesser budget. Looks great. Okay, Rhaenys is there. She's caught in, but then she sees, like, oh, I'm near the location where the dragons are kept, because at first I was confused. When we first introduced the dragons, it seemed like it was outside of the city, and we see Rhaenyra land and the dragon being brought into a cave. That cave must lead underneath this building, because in another episode, we saw the kids being, trained with their dragons. This is where Aemond was presented with the pig, and that was in this building, okay? And there's ramps that go down, and there are dragons being kept underneath here. Rhaenys wanted to get to a dragon, and they're underneath this building. Convenient. She sees, like, a side passageway, and she sneaks off down there. That would have all been fine, not a problem. A bit contrived to force her getting brought along with the crowds or whatever. Would have made sense if the guy leading Rhaenys didn't have his armor, so wouldn't be recognized as the King's Guard. Got met, they inadvertently ran into the town guard, funneling everyone, and there's like, we need to get to the doctor. No, you're ordered to go there. I was like, no, and then the sword gets drawn, you're going this way, no choice. He doesn't have the authority of his armor. They're forced to go there, and even if he was there with Rhaenys, right, it still works, and Rhaenys could just, look to him, and when he's not looking, run through the crowd, and then he tries to get her, and it's too late, separated, she gets down to where the dragons are. There are still some issues, okay, as to, we don't see any of the issues or barriers or guards, which would have very logically been there around the dragons, of how easy it is for Rhaenys to get to her dragon. There should have, been barriers, and they could have justified it because she has a lot of authority, and maybe the dragon keepers have certain rules that they follow, that they are not allowed to bar the rider of the dragon. They're not allowed to stop them from getting to their dragon where they want to. And so Rhaenys gets there and is like, I must get to my dragon. And even if there were town's guard or whatever, it's like, no, we're not allowed to let you in. She's like, do you know who I am? She could force her authority. And then if the dragon is in within earshot, she says, if I just say, Dracarys, even the slightest bit loud, you're all fried. Let me in, or you're dead. So there are ways in which you can justify it. I'm annoyed that I have to fill it in with my own headcanon, when there are ways that it would have been a powerful scene to show her getting in there to explain how she gets to her dragon. What she does later, is unbelievably dumb and baffling. We'll get there. But so, I'm not opposed to the idea that she is able to get to a dragon, because this is where she sneaks into the door and gets away. Still, should have been guards, and there should be a way that they could have shown her. And there are ways to do it, as I've just, given an example. So the show shouldn't have to rely on me to fill in the gaps like this, but it isn't an atrocious one. It isn't like I'm bending over backwards to find a justification for it. There are natural ways to justify it. So it's not terrible, still would have been good to be shown. Aegon, he gets crowned, he gets given the crown of Aegon the Conqueror. People kind of bow, more nodding their head. Aemond, he just kind of just does a small little chin nod. He's like that. It's like the slightest acknowledgement. But Aegon, he starts to get on board with it. Everyone's cheering. All right. This is where we see the actual magnitude of the crowd. I mean, just look at the numbers of people here. This is insane. This is a huge number. 5,000 minimum. It could be 10,000. That's so many people. All right. This is important, because, as we know, a dragon just bursts out of the center and basically wipes out seemingly everyone who's assembled in the center portion here, because not only, look, it doesn't wipe out the entire floor of that circular area. It's like if it's this big, it's a smaller circle that it bursts through, but then all the debris gets spewed out across everyone else. The dragon spins around, and so many people will die in that moment, right? So just paying attention, Aegon is all on board. He actually likes it. He By the way, beautiful sword. It's the same sword that Viserys had. Love it. Otto is loving it. He's like, this is my grandson on the throne. He thinks he's winning. Aegon is just like soaking in. By the way, we see the steel of that sword. It's pattern welded, but that's the look of Valyrian steel in this universe. Great little, visual detail to signify Valyrian steel over regular steel. And pattern welded steel looks cool. Love the sword design. He's soaking it in. He actually perhaps feels loved for the first time, and he's going to be the worst king ever. The show knows what it's doing in that regard. That's clearly intentional. And as he's just really soaking it in, this happens. Alright, by the way, here, look at the crowd. This isn't just regular peasants. If I bring out, that's a merchant. This is a guy wearing a bit more expensive clothing. We see some people with more expensive... it's a nice kind of spread of different people from the city, not just peasants. These are also important people. By the way, the death of peasants is also just as bad as people with money as well. And this happens. Dragon crash, all these people dead. See all that debris falling on them, dead. All that debris falling around, dead. So many just got wiped out so quickly. Okay, and the reason why this is so astronomically dumb and unbelievable, what is Rhaenys thinking? What does the show think? This is basically the largest slaughter that we've seen in this show so far. Maybe the battle with Daemon was larger than that, but I don't know. I mean, that was soldiers' battles. There was a bit of a surrender. I'm not sure we saw more people die there than this. This is 1,000 to 5,000 people, right? One was a war. This was it's cold-blooded murder, okay? Unbelievable slaughter. And what's shocking about this, they didn't need it. It's all for the spectacle. It's all for the girl power moment. It feels like it's for the girl power moment, and that just pisses me off because, no, it seems out of character for Rhaenys. It's also dumb because it was unnecessary. You could have had, a cliffhanger moment of her breaking free in the cave. Maybe that there were soldiers outside of the cave finding out, what do you mean she has the dragon? And then there's a squad of people, come, we've got to stop her. They're running in, and the dragon just comes in, crushes those soldiers. She's willing to kill those, people trying to stop her from escaping. And she escapes from the cave that we saw in episode 1 is another entrance to where the dragons are kept. So there was no need to do this. It was absolute unnecessary slaughter, which is out of character and should have massive complex consequences after this, right? And I'm not sure if the show is good, because it really feels like the show is only doing this for the spectacle and the girl power moment, if it's even that. Maybe not, it's just for girl power, because we've seen boy power moments with Daemon and everything like that. And so there's been boss moments. Let's just say it's for a boss moment, right? But it's not justified. And it's dumb. And it really just what is she? Is she... We were joking about this on Neurotic's channel, where it's maybe she just didn't know, what was above her at the time. And was there... It still doesn't work because... There's a front entrance. Use the front door. Why are you bursting through the ground, right? There are other dumb moments to unpack. There are levels of dumb in this, okay? It's she's bursts out of the top because she thought it was it's harmless, everything. She comes out and there's oh crap, I didn't know that it was is everyone okay? I thought this was just coming out over on the, outside of the city. I'm sorry, accident. So... There's that dumb moment. The other dumb moment, the dragon, it looked like the dragon was just bursting out, right? I don't know, with its head or back arc or anything like that. And so when I saw that, I was all right, dragon bursting out. It's clearly Rhaenys' dragon. And so we see the dragon bursting forward, and it looks like, I don't know, the back neck or back of it. See, we can see even an arc of something bursting up out of it. And so I was thinking, all right, well, Rhaenys must have ordered the dragon to do it for some stupid reason, and then the dragon will, I don't know, lift her up on a wing, and then she'll mount it. But no, when the dust settles, we see Rhaenys. Look at the dragon. We saw the dragon just lift up. Okay, so Rhaenys should be dead because we see her mounted on the dragon, sitting on its back. So she would have been crushed by all that rubble. And then it's just no, she's just there, she's, I don't know, made of stone or steel and wasn't crushed. And all these other people are clearly showing that they're dead from being crushed debris, but in extension to that, there's easily as much debris landing on the dragon as it rises, and so why the hell isn't Rhaenys just a flippin' pancake? And by the way, the dragon, like, spins around, and look, all these people, they're getting killed. The dragon is swinging its tail around, death happening all over the place. Oh, look at this tail, right? See these people? Smack dead, okay? It's just heaps of people getting slaughtered by the dragon, just going crazy. And so this is almost like intentional, like, directions from the rider for the dragon to kill people. It has a rider, so it must be following its commands of the rider. So the dragon is going out of its way to kill more people. Why? It's so frustrating because the show has done so well in so many places in this thing. And then there's this, and it's baffling. What are you doing? Why are the characters doing it? It's so stupid. And, alright, was it because Rhaenys is like, cut the head of the snake off? I have an opportunity to stop the war now by killing the Greens. They're vulnerable. But she doesn't do that either. She has the ability to just say Dracarys, wipe everything. The dragon, like, as it plays out, the dragon. And by the way, why aren't they running away? Is there not? There's clearly other exits to this building. Rhaenys used one. Exit. Stage left. They're just standing around looking like idiots as this dragon is there that could wipe them out. So it's like, no one is acting logical here except the people running for their lives. But the most important people, and they're not more important than, you know, the actual, like, just because they're rich and leaders, no, the lives of these peasants are just as important and they're getting slaughtered. But anyway, they consider themselves more important. Those important people, right? They're not trying to do anything to run to safety. It's just like, no one's acting logically except the peasants being killed that we see here. They're trying to escape. They can't get free. And so everyone's running around. Dragon growls. By the way, the dragon looks fantastic. CGI is great. And then the dust is settling, and we see Rhaenys on the back. How is she not just flattened, crushed by all that debris? It's frustrating. Because it's more frustrating because the show is so good, and they're smarter than this to have stupid, like, someone else wrote this episode. Someone else wrote this episode. It's so out of place and because it's so dumb in comparison to such excellence that we've seen it. Because why are you just standing around? Get to safety. And they just stand there to the point where the dragon just goes close, and it would only take one word, Dracarys. They're all fried. Also, where did you get the armor? I mean, did the dragon rider just keep the armor there with the dragon? I don't know. It's unanswered. Other odd thing, the gold cloaks are trying to close it. Is it so she can't escape? But then Otto's like, don't close the doors. He's trying to order, but they can't hear it. But still, you think a door's going to stop a dragon? No, that's dumb. The door wouldn't trap the dragon in there. And so the fact they're trying to do it, yeah, this is Otto telling to open the doors. But they're just standing there like idiots. No, like, the clearest assumption of why Rhaenys would be willing to slaughter thousands of people is, again, cost, loss, balance, goal. Does this end justify the means of slaughtering thousands of people to end a war that could wipe out so many people and everything? That's the natural implication. She'd only be willing to slaughter so many people in this location to kill all these people. And so their assumption should be, she's going to try and kill us. Let's get the hell out of here. There are other exits in this place. They showed it. Run. They're standing there like idiots, and then Rhaenys doesn't do it. And they didn't show it was like a moment of decision where that was her intent, and then right where she's about to do it, she doesn't, and she's like, no, I've changed my mind. They don't show that. And even then, holy crap, how could you live yourself? You're like, all right, this is my moment to stop the war, kill them all, gotta burst through the ground, sorry, thousands of people, I have to kill you when I get there. And then, to me, you would almost be in sunken cost fallacy areas there. You've just slaughtered all these people, and now you felt their sacrifice and their deaths were valid enough to get this end in killing the Greens and stopping the war, that you change your mind now? After you've committed this much and just murdered thousands of people? So the fact that she doesn't follow through, but now, like, we don't even know if that's her intent. It's like it was just to get free, because she doesn't kill them. The dragon growls, she looks at them. There's no, like, conflict shown on her face or anyone voicing or anything like that. It looks like genuinely This was her just trying to break free. And she decided to kill as many people as possible in the process. What? Oh my goodness. Yeah, so the dragon comes close, it's growling. Dragon looks great. Even like right there, okay? Big growl of the dragon. Alicent steps in front of Aegon, don't kill my son moment. And people are honestly trying to say this is like the best moment in the episode. This is the dumbest moment in the episode. This is not like a girl power slay Rhaenys is so awesome. No, she's an awful mass murderer and a retard because she chose the worst way if it's just to escape. Use the front door, you stupid woman. Oh my goodness. Look, there's no conflict. She's just like, yeah, I got my dragon. See ya. And she didn't change her mind. It's like literally there was no indication shown that she intended to kill them. She's just like, I'm leaving now. Bye. Kill thousands of people in the process. I'm speechless by how stupid that sequence was. And it was such a good... Well, there was a lot of good in that episode. There were some other things to discuss, but nowhere near as blatantly, unforgivably bad as this, what happened right here. Speechless. And it almost... it didn't ruin the episode, but it came close. Like I said, that's what makes this episode a 6, if not a 5, for how stupid it is. Layers are stupid. Rhaenys should have died, should have been crushed in, breaking free of the thing. She should have used the front door. Her intention is just nonsense. Is she trying to kill him? Is she not? Where did she get the armor? Why aren't the people there where the clearest assumption is that this is happening because Rhaenys wants to kill you? Why aren't you running to get to safety? They just stare there like idiots. Layers and layers of stupid. Incredible. And the show wants us to think like this is such a, amazing boss moment. Look at how it is. It's like, you almost ruined a great episode with this. And again, it's spectacle over substance. There was no substance in that. It was nonsense. It was stupid. But they wanted a big spectacle, a Game of Thrones moment where thousands of people die. But if there's no cause, reason, logic behind it, it just makes it look like a moron and a mass murderer. Is that what they're trying to do? That the Targaryens are just colossal assholes? If you have Valyrian blood and you have a dragon, you're just going to be a colossal ass. Is that what the message here? Because Rhaenys is awful. What a vile mass murdering psychopath. That's the takeaway. Now, will they actually follow up and have this moment have the realistic impact it should have? One, this should turn like the entire city against anyone who's allying themselves with Rhaenys, okay? And if Rhaenys allies herself with the Blacks, that could justify the town. Oh, my brother, my cousin, my family, they were in that thing. They died. They got slaughtered by that crazy woman. Yeah, screw the Blacks and everything. Will Otto and Alicent actually use that as leverage? It's like, this is what, the people who are allying with Rhaenyra care about you. Your lives mean spit to them, that they would go out of their way to kill you when needing to leave a building, right? She could have just used the front door of the cave, killed far less people. She probably had to kill some people, but still, far less people out. No, the most destructive way, mass murdering psychopath. And they could use that as leverage, okay? So at the very least, to mitigate the losses, I hope that they address how awful that was, that it was a mass murder, okay? Like an absolute slaughter by a crazy woman, right? And I'm really worried that then they're going to forget about it. It's just going to move on and they only give lip service to it when this should have long-lasting impact on the city, on the conflict, on the characters. Oh, and that's the episode. It ends on that moment. This is the end. Dum dum dum. Oh, look, it's a very small moment, but it's so dumb. But still, it's small. Overall, the episode, I really still enjoy, okay? Still a good show. I hope it's just a blip in the radar. We'll see. Final episode next week. Can't wait to review it with you guys. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, there was a lot to talk about in this episode. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. And as always, stay on watch.